If you do a please and thank you sandwich, more than likely you're not being an ass.
I think too, it was today I was in a meeting. I feel like when people have like the shade, but they like trying to be polite, or they're trying to like show they may know, I don't know, like when you're trying to one up people, that can make you might not even realize you're looking like an ass because you don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's just like you.
Bridge burned. Bridge is burned.
It's like,
welcome to the show. Ain't Gonna Hurt Nobody podcast and our professional countdown over there. I'm your host, Colie.
And I'm Joy.
Hey, we're back. We're back like we never left.
We're back and we're black.
Hey, speaking of being back in black. We have today's episode on deck for you, the Complexion for Connection.
Oh, that kind of reminds me of like those like 70s songs. It's like the complexion for connection,
the complexion for connection. Hey, 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 hey.
Whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
I'm ready.
you brought that from the belly,
The
from
belly.
the diaphragm.
Got to give it all you got.
All right.
Oh man, the complexion for connection. So it's a phrase we've all heard before, and I think it's often positioned in a way, especially given everything going on with your president's DE&I policies right now. But it's also you hear the complexion for connection. It's often used to describe really the exclusionary way blacks and women and other people have been excluded from certain profession, jobs, titles, pay range, neighborhoods, whatever it is, just not having the complexion to get the connect to advance your life in an upward way.
Yeah, I think too, like it's accurately timed because it's like right now, because of your president and the initiatives that they're setting up, like connection is even more important now because it's even more important, like who you know and how people know you and how you present in the world. So.
Absolutely right. So you talk about the complexion for connection, but I think, the old saying, like you were just saying, is it who you know or what you know, right? I always say it comes down to who knows you.
Oh, that's fair.
Right? Like that's what matters in the end. I can say, I've had meetings with like very high profile people, but I can say all day long, I know Commissioner Adam Silver from the NBA. If somebody reaches out to Adam Silver, say, hey, Colie, Blake is applying for this job. He said he knows you. What do you have to say about them? And he says, who the hell is that? That doesn't mean anything, right? I think it's important for us to recognize that, when I got let go from New Era, they shut our office down or however we position it. I no longer work for the company. They hook you up with like an employment coach or transitional services to help you redo your resume, to professional networking events. The very first thing they tell you is 80% of all jobs that come, especially mid to senior level executive positions, are going to come through a referral. Not saying it has to be your best friend, but it's going to come because you know someone. And that didn't process with me. And but we'll spend the rest of this episode to talk about that. I think.
Isn't it like 80%?
80%. 80%.
I thought it was like 80%.
It's a very high number because the first thing they tell you to do if you find yourself without employment is reach out to your network, see who's hiring, right? Oftentimes, people prefer to hire within, or people prefer to hire someone that they can trust, they know can deliver, someone they have familiarity with, right? But that comes in all different shapes and forms. But I think just the fact that 80% of your employment possibilities is going to come through a connect of some sort, it's important for you to just kind of embrace that reality and then dive in head first.
Yeah, and then too, it's like a tricky balance between like building your network and building connections, but not coming off like a user, like, oh, I'm literally just talking to you because I think you can get me something, but kind of like coming off as your authentic self, and then people remember that. Because I know, especially if you're trying to do like a career change or like a transition, it's really about who you know. Because people, you could be an excellent person for the field. Like even in the current job I have now, I have been applying for this exact same job all across the country since I was probably since probably like my 6th year of teaching. So been a teacher almost 15, like since 2005. I've been in education.
It's 20 years just to.
Oh yeah, it's like
You're
20.
You're getting, You're that 20-year vet now.
Oh man,
that people used to always talk about.
But yeah, the point is like, after I had been a teacher for a while, I got my master's degree. I was like, I'm getting out the classroom. I was applying for all the jobs. I knew I could do it, like even this exact same position. But it's like, it's who you know. It's like people don't really look at your resume. Like they look at it, but they listen to others more.
Absolutely.
I feel like, because they've heard from somebody else, then that will like spark them to look at it. Yeah. Because there's so many resumes you get, and then there's so many people that apply for jobs that are not qualified. It's like shocking. Like, what made you think you were a good candidate for this position? So that makes the hire, that can cause fatigue as well.
Because I think, for me, I mean, again, over 20 years in the business, and I'm in now. When I started, I won, there's a industry award in advertising, most promising minority student. And back then, if you were named, I think there was 40 of us, 50 of us. If you were named part of that, it was a big deal because you were part of a 2-page spread in Ad Age magazine. This is when magazines and print really mattered.
Yeah.
So you were featured in that. And I know I was the only black man. I think I was the only black male in my cohort. And then I know I was definitely only one of 2 black people from Chicago. Won that award thinking I would definitely get a job in advertising in Chicago, like at least an internship, if not an entry-level position, like right off the bat. And when I tell you that not a single agency in Chicago gave me a look that year, like coming out of college, not a single agency did. I did. Luckily, Kramer Krasel, which is an agency that's in Chicago and Milwaukee, the president of the Milwaukee office happened to see the Ad Age spread and reached out to the school, got my number, and offered me an internship. So I got a look that way. But it was in the public relations side. I did that. And eventually I did get hired by Burrell once Burrell had an opening. But that came because Faye Ferguson, former co-CEO and owner, she did a speaking engagement at Marquette. And I just went up to her afterwards and I said, Miss Ferguson, one day I want to work for your company. My name is Colie Blake. I just won that one most promising minority student, and this would be my dream to work for you. And 14 months later, I was there.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't just cold apply. It was because she remembered me and she helped connect the dots. And that's when we say like 80% of all your jobs are going to come through a connection. And again, she might not even remembered anything about me, but she remembered she was at Marquette. There was a student there who said, I want to work for Burrell and I'm from Chicago. And then eventually I got hired in September of 2005.
Yeah. And what were you doing until then?
I worked as a janitor. I was like a swing utility player. So I was part maintenance man, part doorman at 420 East Ohio and Eugenie Terrace, which was owned by Camco, now Village Green, here in Chicago. But you know how I got that job?
How'd you get that job?
Yeah, my friend Nick, his grandma was an accountant for Camco. So that's how he got the job. And he pulled me on. So I never, I had to fill out the application once it was known I was going to get the job. But RIP, Miss Naple, like she got me that job because she worked there. So again, it wasn't through that. I also had an internship unpaid at Radio Disney. You know who got me that? My Aunt Monica, because she worked at WLS.
Yeah, I mean, I think if people really just take the time and think like, how many of my jobs did I get because of someone else? I think what's interesting for me, we're like opposites because until probably like 2021, give or take.
Yeah.
Until or probably like 2019 is when I started really being like, okay, like this strategy of just like cold, like just applying with no connection is not gonna work. Like, yeah, you'll get a job, but it's either, I found that sometimes when you don't have a connection, it's like they can hide more from you too.
100%.
Because when you don't have those connections, it's like they can sell the best product to you ever, but you get there and you're like surprised by things that you would have never known because you don't know anybody that can tell you like, yo, avoid her. This person always comes late.
That bonus isn't real.
Yeah, they're not gonna pay you like they said, or whatever it is. So even those insider scoops are like helpful vital, for your like work-life balance and just figuring things out. So
yeah, and I think what you're hitting on in some ways, right? There's understanding what awaits you once you get in, but even getting there, right? You know, started off talking about the complexion for connection, just the nature of where a lot of Black folks are coming from, right? If my mom was a social worker for the state of Illinois, my dad was a union carpenter in Chicago, so maybe along the way they could have provided something. You know, if I wanted to work for the state, my mom probably could have helped plug something that way. My dad was a carpenter, so if I wanted to go into the trades, definitely had my back. But when I went first generation college student, I went that route. I'm starting from ground zero. So it was really just, for me, it was getting to know my teachers, like staying a little bit extra, asking for help, kind of being outgoing. That one of my teachers encouraged me to apply for most promising minority student. And then whenever there was a speaker or a seminar or a lecture or something, I showed up to all of them, and I always stayed afterwards, introduced myself. Always had, if they needed a resume, I always had a resume in my bag, no matter what, just because I didn't have business cards at the time. But people probably like, what are business cards? But that resume was my business card. But I was always ready for the opportunity because I didn't know it then, but I had to build a network from the ground up. Now we have LinkedIn. So it's a little easier.
And that's an interesting way to put it because it's so true. Is we're both like first generation college students.
So it makes sense. Yeah. Especially in education, like where you're in, like you had an aunt who was there in Milwaukee, probably could have plugged you in a couple of different ways along the way. But even within that, you're in the education field, but then you need to get to know like the other teachers. And then you need how to, know the principals. And then since it's government and city, like there's only so much that you can do, like versus the private sector where it's a lot more subjectivity and the hiring process isn't as it doesn't have to be as in the open as it is when you work for a government entity. Yeah,
I think too, like in my case, it's like I went to private school. So if I would have wanted to go back and be a teacher at like the school I like went to, I probably could get a job. But it was like I was trying to get into public schools, which I didn't know as much about. I think it's just so it's really an interesting thought because even with LinkedIn, it only gets you so far. You can see who's on there, but you don't want to be a weird like creeper.
But I think LinkedIn is literally the one social platform built for creeping. That's the irony.
That's
true. It actually, at my work, we're doing a partnership with a major sports entertainment entity, and the day we signed on, like the head of their partnerships, like LinkedIn friended me. Well, we might, and he's not on the day-to-day. His team is the ones we're working with, and we might never meet in person, but that's a connection. And no matter what, once we see who you have in common, you never know down the line. I'll tell a quick story related to LinkedIn. So I worked at BBDO. I worked on the Wrigley client, and Lucas Erickson, he was the senior. At the time, I believe he was a marketing director on the Wrigley business. And then I left, 8 or 9 years had passed, hadn't spoken to him. I was looking for a job. And at that time, he was at Beam Suntory. I applied for a job. I was like, I am cut out for this role. But I knew there was probably thousands of applications. As I found out, there was over 4,000 applications received for that job. Oh, wow. I put in a call to Lucas. I said, hey, you know what I can do. You know what I know about this category. This is what I've done since we've worked together. Can you at least tell HR to look at my resume and give it a serious look. I don't, because now they have screening software where if you don't have enough keywords in your resume, you might not even make it to the recruiting manager's desk. So he just put that little bug in the ear, and then of the 4,000, I made it to the final three, and I was told I was a lead candidate, but I didn't get the position because it was never filled, because the role changed with new leadership at the company. But from 4,000 down to the final three, that happened because of a plug that I hadn't spoken to in 8 years. And people, like, if you don't take anything away from this episode, people are happy to help you. Like, they want to plug you. People like being able to make sure people can provide. People like being able to say, hey, I helped so-and-so get this job, or I hired this person. Like, there's a pride that people have knowing that they help people in a place to succeed. So whatever shame that you might have, and this could have gone under things I wish I would have known, but whatever shame you have about putting it out there that you're looking, or if you see somebody that you might not have spoken to in a while, trust me, people are adults and they get the hustle, and they will, if they can, they will definitely put in a good word if they fuck with you. If they don't put in a good word, they might not really fuck with you, or might not have thought your actual work product was that good.
Yeah, and at the same time, like, that goes back to, like, one of our other episodes about burning bridges. It's like, I know for a fact the reason for the first half, I would just say, like, the first half of my career, I really didn't have, like, connections like that. One, because I was moving from, like, city to city. But two, like, I had some kind of bad experiences at different schools that made it, like, challenging. Like, if you're at a point where you kind of can't get a professional reference, like, you need to take a step back, and, like, that is important. You might think, like, oh, my resume is strong enough, or they're going to see that I had a 3.8 when I did my master's program, but, like, that is not enough. Like, even for people that I've currently hired, like, they had references, and the references were like, yeah, this is a good person, but they might be impatient, or they might do this. It's like, I'm going to more listen to that reference who worked with this person than, like, all their accolades and stuff. So I just think it's really important to have, one, good references that are responsive, because at the same time you could have a reference that's, like, not responsive, and that can mess you up too.
Exactly.
Just thinking through all those components, and I agree with you, like, not being ashamed to reach out, especially if you didn't leave, like, a sour taste in their mouth. It's just important to realize, like, you don't want to leave sour taste in people's mouth just because either you think you could do their job, you think they're, like, you don't think they're good at it, whatever your reason might be. Like, some situations, it will come back to bite you. It could be like 3 or 4 years later.
It could be 8 years. It could be 10 years. Again, on my journey coming back to the advertising agency side of the world, I applied for a job at an agency. It was a LinkedIn cold apply. It was one of those easy applies.
Yeah.
And I was like, it would be cool. This would be cool if I got it. And then the hiring manager happened to be somebody whom I hadn't spoken to in 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And she literally told me, like, Colie, I'm surprised you're applying for this. You should, at this point, I thought you would be at this level, this job. Seems like it might be a little bit beneath you, but if you really want it, I'm happy to pull your name forward and have you meet the hiring manager. And that hiring manager happened to hire me. He hired me another place, and then gone on, like, and now we're actually, like, really good friends in this industry. But it started with somebody who met me 15 years ago. Apparently I did something to leave a good enough taste in her mouth that the memory that she had of me was like, oh, he would be a good fit for this role. And that put me to the top of the list. I think when you talk about the complexion, I think for me, I didn't have any connections, and I definitely saw a lot of my white peers. I don't even want to call them peers, but white counterparts. They got into the biz, got the internships, they got the entry level positions. They didn't have the GPAs, they didn't have the unpaid internships that I did, but they had the connection. They knew somebody, legacy, what have you. They had that complexion with the connection to get in. And they're not even in the field anymore. A lot of them leave right away. 20 years later, 21 years later, I'm still here,
Yeah, and that's just not even, like, you can leave it to race or whatever it might be, but a lot of times it is race. But it's like you got an uncle or you got somebody that can hook you up, and it's so true. Like, you, as a Black person, you have to work twice as hard for the same position or the same like job, even sometimes even just to get the recognition. So it's important to be a little more strategic and a little less, I don't want to say like emotional, but more strategic and like thinking through like that ideation, like coming up with any different ideas to like get you to the path you want to be on, instead of being like, oh, they just don't like me, or taking it personal. Like, it's no room for that at this time. Like, your job in an ideal world, or I don't even know if it's an ideal world. Yeah, it's an added bonus if you making friends at work. But that's not, like, your job is for your paycheck. Like, so taking all this stuff so personal, it's like, that's not the time nor place. It's like, you got to have like a strategy, like be thinking 2-3 steps ahead.
You do. The thing I want to say is, like, I don't think people realize, like, you're always auditioning for something. I don't care where you're at. I don't care if we're on. I know for a fact I've gotten calls for jobs based on this platform we have right here. You know, we're still under 200 YouTube subscribers.
That's gonna change.
That's gonna change. But I know for a fact people have seen this, and this has gotten me like looks. I think there's people that I've met that worked in retail stores that I frequent, and I know I've put them on to job opportunities they might not have had otherwise. And that's just because they carried themselves in a certain way. And I was like, hey, you know. And it was years later, I was like, hey, I think you'd be a good look for this. You want to try it out. Like, I think people, we all need to understand, like, you are always on. You could be at a bar drinking whiskey and wine with your wife, and then you can meet up with another couple, and you can leave a good enough impression or bad enough impression that could help you professionally down the line. Like, you're always auditioning for something, whether you know it or not, or whether you're even like trying to audition. But 80% of all like opportunities are gonna come through like a connection, and the taste you leave in people's mouths, people's, you know, they're putting their reputation on the line, like vouching for you. You have to just kind of put all that into consideration.
Yeah, it's just like you're never really stuck. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm just stuck, it's all about like a choice. Like, if you feel stuck, it's like you're choosing to be. Like, I know for me, like I was a teacher for 15 years, and every single year, at least 6 times throughout the year, I'll be like, I fucking hate this. Like, I would just be like, man, I wish I could get out this classroom. I don't know how. A parent would do something. The principal would do something. Like, and yes, being an educator is an honorable position and stuff, but it's hard. It's a very hard job. And I just remember, like, I used to be like, oh, I'll never get out of this. I always apply for jobs. Like, people look at my resume and all they see is teacher, teacher, teacher. How do I get out of this? But the first thing I had to do was like strategize, like look at like, okay, who has a job I want to do? What do they have that I don't? Yes. And I think that's a humbling thing. You have to humble yourself enough to be like, not be so arrogant, like, I'm super good at this, they should just hire me. It's Correct. Like, no, if you missing something, get the stuff that you're missing plus some. So then you stand out even more, or volunteer, do that extra stuff if it comes down to it.
Everybody's good. I taught, you know, like if 4,000 people applied for the job, I have to assume at a minimum 500 had a comparable resume. I would argue another 500 probably had a better resume and was overqualified. So that knocked yourself out, right?
Yeah.
Like as special as you are, and maybe because I'm in my 40s now and I can accept it, like, there's somebody just as special, if not more special, out there that can do what you can do.
Yeah.
And might look better doing it.
Yeah, and it's like the gift that we have now is we do have like a LinkedIn or websites or whatever it is. Like, you can go, every time somebody new is hired at my current job, I read that person's bio. I don't care what position they are. I read, like, when you get an opportunity to see like a new hire and they're making more than you should be reading like, what did they do? What fellowships did they do? Where did they go to school? What did they do? Like, I remember like probably in like 2006. So yeah, this is literally, I had been teaching 6 years and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to do something else. And so I was like, oh, I'll get my master's degree. Nothing came of me I thought I was going to get all these jobs, all these people was going to be impressed. Like, every teacher gets their master's degree because
Correct.
it increases your salary. It's not
Yes.
something that like makes you stand apart. You have to figure out like, what did these people do that help them to stand apart? And sometimes that's doing that affinity group that you really don't want to go to, or going to your job's book club, or presenting at conferences outside of your actual work. And then I'm surprised at how many people I encounter that will be like, I really want this job. And like, it's okay to reach out. Every job, once I got out the classroom, every single job I got, I reached out to somebody that I knew worked in that department. I was like, you have to be humble enough to be like, hey, I like not care so much about what they think, but just be like, hey, I saw this position listed in your department. Like, here's my resume. Here's why I think I would be a good fit. And yes, I have applied. Do you have any insight? Because sometimes randomly somebody you really, really don't know will like, but kind of knows you, will still like plug you. So it's important to just like, you don't have to have this person in your close network, but not be afraid to reach out to somebody that could potentially put a word in, or at least pass your resume along. Like, they might not know you, but every job up till now I've gotten, I reached out to somebody who was in that department and was like, hey, I saw this position. Can I apply? Do you think I'll be a good fit? Share your resume. Like, all they're going to do is just ignore your email. What's the worst that they could do? Are they going to judge you for wanting an opportunity? Like,
no one's going to
judge you for that.
No one's going to be mad at you for raising your hand and saying, I want this. I think the other thing, like as you were talking there, I go back, I liken it to when in high school, they used to say, hey, do extracurriculars, do activities, like whether it's a play on esteem, FBLA, African American Culture Club, because when it comes down to needing some of those references, it could be easier, because I was in high school, I was a BC student, so it's easier to get references from
like the
extracurricular heads versus some of my actual teachers. They're like, man, I like you, but like, you don't, everybody came through for me that I needed to, but like that could be easier because you need somebody to vouch for you, or you never know. I know what helped me with Marquette and how I found out about EOP is my counselor went to Marquette. At Whitney Young, my counselor, Miss Myers, she was a Marquette alum. So she helped educate me on EOP. And when I needed, somehow or another, there's a standardized test that I missed, filled out the sheet. So it came back that my like math level was like at a 4th grade level. And they're like, well,
oh, wow,
this can't be right. And it was, I almost had a perfect, but you could tell like I misfilled a dot and then I like filled them all wrong. So it was like, I can't remember what test it was. So she had to she did something, like she called somebody, talked to somebody to like help facilitate me without me having to retake the test. But again, it came through because I used to just come in her office when I didn't even need anything, just say, hey, how are you doing today? And then just to like pick her brain about stuff. So it's all about everybody in your aura. Just look at that as a possible connect and just don't be an ass. Like, just don't be an ass. That's half the battle. Just don't be an ass.
Well, I guess some people may not know what that looks like to be an ass.
You do. I mean, like, it goes back to me, like, say please, say thank you. Respect that people's time is your most valuable resource. It's the one thing you can't get back. It's knowing that people don't have to do what they're doing. So that goes back to saying please or thank you. If you do a please and thank you sandwich, more than likely you're not being an ass.
I think too, it was today I was in a meeting. I feel like when people have like the shade, but they like trying to be polite, or they're trying to like show they may know, I don't know, like when you're trying to one up people, that can make you might not even realize you're looking like an ass because you don't know what you're talking about. Like, it's just like Bridge is burned. It's like, I don't have to, it's like you're good day. Like, so I would just say, it's interesting. Just think about how you come off. Yeah. And if you feel insecure, because really that's a form of insecure. You might feel insecure in a way. Like, that's really what's the root. It's just like try to either be quiet then or try to figure out just it's okay to observe. It's okay just to be a quiet worker. Like sometimes that's all people need to remember you. You show up on time, you get your work done on time, you don't say much, but you're consistent. That is a connect right then and there. It's so true. You do not know who is looking at you. And who is watching you?
And it might not even be you, the speaker. It could be somebody else sitting beside you. They say, we gotta wrap this up soon and go to things we wish we would have known. They say the big reason that you see a lot of these music execs using Diddy for an example, like you're seeing the fall, like a lot of the people he was a dick to back like in the 90s and 2000s, like now they're the VPs and the SVPs and the people running stuff.
Yeah.
They remembered that stuff. Like the Harvey Weinsteins, all of these people, like the people you stepped on, they finally made it up there. And they had the ability to take you down. That's what happened because you were an ass. It's easier. It takes energy, in my opinion, to be an ass. To me, it like takes energy to like not say thank you or not say, oh, please, or like, hey, I appreciate what you did today. Even if you don't agree with it, hey, I appreciate you taking the time to take us through this. I can't wait to talk through this more.
Yeah, it's just like not everybody works the same way you work.
Exactly.
So it's important to try to not come off as like judging, just like try to, because you might, it's just everybody's different. Everybody works different. And it's so important how you treat, like, it's basically how they say how you treat, like, the little man or whatever that saying is.
Yes.
Because, I mean, there's tons of people that I now encountered that were above me that were random. And they're just like, oh, now you're here.
Yeah, now we're peers. Like,
now we're peers. Now,
you're putting a glass ceiling on yourself and don't even know it. So,
yeah, that's true.
So, we like to wrap every show with a little segment called Things We Wish We Would Have Known. As it pertains to this topic, like the very aspect that 80% of all your jobs are going to come through a connect. 80%. So very, seldomly coming in, you could fill out a paper application, you could apply online. I've gotten obviously like 20, like that 80% holds true because 20% of the jobs I've had since college have come through cold application. And then the other 80 has come through a direct connect I've made along the way. So just appreciate like the impression you're leaving on people. Even if you're at a happy hour, social hour, if you leave a crummy impression on somebody, you get too drunk, you're stumbling, slurring your words, you're throwing up. Like people are going to remember that. Be like, I can't take this person to my workplace because you now represent that connect. But if you do it in a good way, that's just building the tree, and you'll find yourself getting more invitations. So just things I wish I'd have known. Like you're always auditioning, interviewing, or making an impression on somebody, even if you're not trying to, or even if you don't want to. You're always on.
Yeah, it's true. Be careful what you say. Sometimes it's not necessary to gossip.
Indeed.
The gossiping, people remember that. People remember like people who like scheme on others.
Yeah.
Even though they might be like, ooh, that's a good play. They'll just be like looking at you side eye like, you scheme on people.
Absolutely.
So it's just all those little things that people seem turned up to be a part of. They still might be kind of looking at you side.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's interesting. Be strategic. Be strategic.
Absolutely. So what's something you wish you would have known?
Oh, okay. Something I wish I would have known is literally the importance of connection, and it makes your life easier. It's as simple as that. Like it's 10 times harder to apply for all these jobs and do when you could just sometimes know someone or even ask questions or have at least a path to take. So I think if you think about like it might seem hard, maybe you have social anxiety or something like that, just figure out like how can you connect that makes you feel comfortable, because it can make it easier for you. Absolutely. And I think that's something I wish I would have known.